All right, so that's live. Welcome to Office Hours with Sarah Temte and yours beardly Nabeel Azeez. Uh,
I
Sarah,
love that.
somebody called me the Beardashian on Facebook today, which I thought was funny. I'm going to swipe that as well. So Sarah is a copywriter that I've been secretly being jealous of for a long time because she's very, very skillful. And I think game recognized game. I don't think her clients can really understand what or appreciate what she's doing. All they see is like the money flow in. But when another copywriter sees it, I was like, it's like, okay, like this chick knows what she's doing. So it's
I
and
appreciate
then
that.
yeah, and there's the other end of the spectrum where you read somebody, either it could be like an entrepreneur or like a new copywriter, and when they write, it seems very ham-fisted. Yeah.
Yeah.
uh like it's like so like good copy is almost invisible, right?
I
Yeah.
always tell people that my least favorite compliment or comment to get on a post is, "Oh my gosh, great copy." Because I know that
Thank
if
you.
they're paying attention to the copy, they're not actually paying attention to the content or the offer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey Amir, what's up, man? Thank you for joining us. All right, and Sarah is besides being a copywriter, she writes copy for the coaching space. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, high ticket coaches, and also she is a messaging strategist and an offer creation consultant, and we're going to go into a little bit about what that means. However, the way I sort of thought had an idea when I sort of scheduled this event is more like in office hours and ask us anything, so that the viewers and the audience members can ask their questions about marketing and copy. And we have a few pre-submitted questions. I told people I'd handle those first. So, hey, what's up, Todd? Thank you. The Beardashian is here. All right, so we have three questions. Let's do this easy one first. This copywriter, Felicia. She messaged me today, and she's a brand new copywriter. And she asked the question, "How do I get my first deal?" So, let me ask you, how did you get your first client?
I did work for 3 business owners that I knew personally for free to build like a little bit of a portfolio, and then asked each of them for a testimonial and for referrals, and kind of leveraged that into my first couple clients.
Right. Yeah, that's how a lot of people do it. My first client was a paid gig, but it was through a friend, and they
hmm
already knew me. So I think the most people will get their first gig through their personal network, right?
Yeah.
You think that's a good way to go about it?
Yeah, I say leverage your connections, because even though you're not known for your expertise yet, at least your personal network trusts your integrity and your ability to show up. And that's like half the battle as a service provider.
Absolutely. And then it's like it's much easier to just tell people, your friends and your family, hey, I'm a copywriter now, as opposed
Yeah,
to like start sending a bunch of like cold emails and shit, right?
totally.
Yeah. All
Because
right.
if you
So
never
that
landed
was
a client, you're kind of like talking out of your ass when it comes to cold emailing.
100%, 100%. So question two, and the next two questions, they're sort of related to each other.
Okay.
So the first question is from Jace Brown. Okay, Jace says, I coach owners and managers to help them define their processes and systems. This creates problems to solve, and I coach them through solving those problems. Doing this helps my clients gain productivity, efficiency, and I guess more profits. When I try to express this in some sort of copy, it seems flat. I would like to ask how I can express the transformation that I offer.
Ooh, I like this one. I think that people with systemization or time saving offers sometimes spend way too much talking about like the vehicle or the process So they talk about how you're going to save time or block off your calendar or rearrange your to-do list, or restructure your business, and no one's really interested in that. So I think a lot of times they're so in love with the systems that they create or the process that they take their clients through that they spend way too much time talking about that and not enough time talking about the end goal. And then the other thing that I think, or that I see a lot, is they don't have some like unique methodology. So their offer ends up sounding just like a copycat offer, like every other systems coach or time saving coach or business restructuring coach. And if you can find some way to methodologize what you do and have like a really unique vehicle or something, I'm trying to think of an example. Do you follow Ian Stanley? Do you know that copywriter?
Yes.
So he has an email copywriting course or program, and there's dozens of email copywriting programs, but he turned his into unique methodology by talking about the 1 hour workday, where he teaches you email copywriting. But the idea is it'll give you a 1 hour workday because you spend 30 minutes getting traffic to your email list and 30 minutes writing an email. So he doesn't spend most of his time marketing the course talking about, oh, I'm going to teach you all these email marketing frameworks and give you all these email templates. He says, I'll help you get a 1 hour workday by leveraging, this vehicle. And I think that's what more people should do in the systems realm.
Definitely. And it could be as simple as giving your process a name, right?
Totally. Yeah. Giving your process a name, or your 3 key steps a name.
Yeah. I'm just sharing this to my Facebook wall to get more people in here. I forgot to do that when we started.
Sounds good. Yeah, no problem.
I was so ready to go and ask you all these questions. Get in, pussy. We're going to save your marketing.
We're going to save your marketing. Yes. Back to Todd's question. That his name, Todd. I also think that I think people think their business is a special snowflake, and that everyone else can have a more systemized business. Everyone else can leverage their time. Everyone else can get themselves out of the nitty gritty except for them, because they have some special thing that they have to do custom, that they have to do all of the things. And so I would use some case studies from like really different industries or really different business models that you work with, and illustrate how you help that like CEO restructure for better profit margins, more productivity, so that your audience sees how your methodology applies across like different industries or business models, because that's going to build belief that you can do it for them, because they're going to think like, oh yeah, I have to keep doing this. It's my creative brilliance, in the moment. It's my intuition. It's my flowy process. So your work won't work for me.
Yeah. And Todd Jones says a cool name ? Yeah, Todd, it's just like any name to differentiate yourself from other people doing the same thing in your market. So like offer creation consultant is a cool name for what Sarah does. Or even messaging strategist is also a cool name. It doesn't have to be like super unique or fancy or like a brand name or anything. I know. Do you know Jimmy Parent, the copywriter? He calls himself the persuasion scientist. Yeah. So you just have to come up with like a name that's individual that nobody else is using. So like if you think about the term inbound marketing, the inbound marketing didn't exist before HubSpot came on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And they invented that name. And now whenever people think about inbound marketing, they think HubSpot, when really it's just like digital marketing, in a specific kind of way.
Yeah, and you can also come up with a specific name for your process or your system. So I know someone who has something called the instant Facebook funnel fix, and it's like a 7-step audit of the main leaks that they see in people's Facebook ad funnel. And every Facebook ad agency starts their process by doing a similar audit. Like, it's not necessarily that special, but by giving it a name and talking about it like it's a special, unique methodology, it's more attractive.
Yeah, definitely. And last year I went through this training with Mel Abraham on frameworks, where you have something called a thematic framework, which talks about the some sort of transformation that happens with your prospect, and then you have a process framework, which describes the way that you're going to make that transformation happen, right? And like, we had to go in and create frameworks for our business, and I created something called the troll framework, which is how people can become a big personal brand online, and it has like different levels. And then level 4 is where you want to be at, and it's like the authority leader. And if you try to go too high, you become a pariah, because like you're too you've got too much attention on you, or you're creating too much of a ruckus. And that's where people like Alex Jones live.
I love that. That's super powerful.
Yeah. All right. So next question. This question is from Develda Edgington. I'm a psychologist professional, or psychology professional turned copywriter. So I'm multi-talented when it comes to understanding behavior, target audience, buying cycle, psychographic challenges, pain points, etc. I find myself doing more than just copywriting, but I'm struggling with what to lead with and what to make my hero offer. Do you have any advice for Develda?
Well, you want to start with what people are already looking for, or what they think is their most urgent problem, or what they think the problem is that will move the needle most if they get it solved. Usually it's the thing that's easiest to understand. So you may do an intro offer where you work with someone on, reworking like a sales process for a single one of their offers. And you can talk about how you build in, different things in that sales process based on people's awareness or where their psychological state as they move through the funnel or the sales process. But that's going to be attractive because people are always looking to have a better sales process or higher conversion rate or whatever. You may do some deeper work with like brand story or the feeling that your brand creates, or deeper work with like retention and stuff as you move through a client relationship. But I would just start with something simple that addresses a problem they're already looking for a solution for.
Yeah. And this is for Develda, if she's watching, or if she's watching this later. I took a look at your website, and you're doing way too many things. She has stuff like resume writing on there. So I think she needs to get a little bit more specific about what she does. She's got like every copywriting service under the sun on her website, which I'm pretty sure that doesn't help either.
No, because then you're just confusing people. And I think that you should we all have a wide range of skill sets because of our life experiences. Yours are really powerful for copywriting because you have, experience with psychology. But we should bring our broad experience to a narrow problem or a narrow vertical or narrow audience, and apply all our like collective genius and perspective and experience to that one thing, versus taking our experience and throwing it scattershot at a bunch of problems.
All right, perfect. Hey, Shauna, so glad you could join us. Amir asks, could you please talk about unique mechanisms and how to build them ethically? I see a lot of fellow copywriters who present unique mechanisms, which are the same thing a lot of other people are doing, just with a different name.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
How I do it with my clients is we audit their best past client projects or their best like student successes. And we see like what were the big turning points in that project, or what was like the one thing that they did that really created results. What took the student from like here to here. And then we look at whatever that, did they just have a coaching call and talk about a specific topic? Did they just implement some, service or solution? And then we begin to create a methodology or unique mechanism around that. Because there are some principles that, like, all copywriters are going to be maybe using similar direct response skills or similar content marketing skills. All website designers may have like similar backgrounds or similar design principles, but sometimes, like, as you work with more clients, your unique like brilliance and expertise comes out in ways that you don't even recognize in the moment, because it's just like flowing out of you based on all of your past experience, and what that client needs in the moment. And so if you look back at your past client successes, or if you're working with a client and copywriting for them, if you look at some of their biggest successes and what precipitated that, you can then create a unique mechanism around that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does to me, at least.
How do you
But
create unique mechanisms?
well, I mean, I'm just trying to. What I would usually do is I would do it exactly like Amir says. I would take a concept that already exists and I would just add a brand name to it. So I have this one website that I bought, which sort of encapsulates my approach to copy and content, called direct response branding. So it's directresponsebranding.com. And then I have another which is called Attention Alchemist, because essentially what you're doing is taking attention and turning it into money, which is what the copywriter or any kind of marketer does. So it's just a way, like it's a metaphor to say what you do without even saying it. So Attention Alchemist is like, I saw you nodding your head as soon as you heard it. So like you immediately got it. And it's much easier than me telling you, well, I'm a direct response copywriter. We write copy that actually makes sales. We're not like the copywriters that write the billboard ads, which they're not really copywriters. They're like tagline writers, and so on and so on. Like the entrepreneur, the prospect, they don't care.
Right. And also, I know Amir mentioned that he wanted to be ethical about it, and that it maybe feels unethical to put a name to something that other people are also doing. But it's not, because it's just a communication tool. You're not stealing anything. You're not lying about what you do. You're just titling it and positioning it in a way that makes sense and demonstrates the value of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've seen that first episode of Mad Men, where Don Draper comes up with "It's toasted," and then the client is like, "Well, everybody toasts their tobacco leaves." Like he's like, "It doesn't matter."
It doesn't matter.
This is, I mean, that's
knowing
exactly
what to bring attention to.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and then if you've ever read, Breakthrough Advertising, the stages of market awareness, or the stages of sophistication. At some point, you have to, like, when the market has already heard what the benefits are, and heard everybody try to say, my benefits are bigger than yours, essentially. Then you have to move into, okay, we get you the benefits, but we do it in a different way than what all these other guys, how all these other guys do it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we have that's all the questions for now. Let's move into a little bit about the topics that we have planned for today. So you mentioned that you don't do revisions for 90% of your client work. What is this diva status? Please explain.
Yeah, so for 90% of my client work, I don't do revisions. There are a couple of exceptions, but I found in the early stage of my career that, and I think most copywriters and service writers go through this, you do round after round of revisions on a project that you brought a lot of time and attention to, and at the end, you end up with like a diluted, watered down sales page or website or content campaign that isn't going to get as good of results as the one that you initially brought to the table. And so the first thing that I tried to do was write revision limits into my contract. Like, I'll only do so many revisions, or you only have 3 days to ask for revisions, or we're only going to do this, this limited amount. You can't ask for angle revisions. You can just ask for line by line revisions. And I found that while that did help narrow scope creep, it still left clients feeling frustrated or unsure. Like, they may stop asking for revisions, but they still didn't feel total confidence about the final product. Or worse, they were like, oh, well, I can't ask Sarah for any revisions anymore, but I'll just do some on the side before publishing it. So I sort of stumbled into zero revision copywriting by accident. The first couple times that I sold, instead of a project that a client brought to me saying, hey, I want a sales page done, I want a funnel written, or whatever, I sold a couple like productized copywriting offers. And what I mean by that is it was a package that I created that had very set guidelines around like the process that we were doing and the deliverables that they were getting. And I positioned it as a very unique methodology. Like, it was a content, I think the first time that I did it was a content kit that had 10 posts or emails that you should send to your list for like a certain type of launch. But it wasn't a template kit. People actually hired me to do it. And I realized that even though I didn't change anything in my contract or my process, I got way fewer revision requests around that. And so that kind of set off a light bulb that because clients were coming to me understanding that they were signing up for something that was already created, like a process that I had already mapped out. And on our initial call, I set the expectations and said, I've sent these emails before for several different clients. Here's the results that we got. Here's why each of these emails is included. Here's the purpose of each of them, etc. They were very clear before a single word of their custom campaign was even written why all the pieces were in play. And they also really had a deep level of trust in me. They're like, oh, she created this totally unique thing. Oh, I'm buying into this like really special set of like unique emails. And so the level of trust was so much higher that they weren't picky about the copy that came back. They didn't suggest like, oh, let's swap out this email, or, oh, I don't like how this one starts, because they had an understanding of the package that they were buying into before we even started. So after that, I started selling more and more productized types of things. And even the retainers that I was doing with clients were much more narrow in like the type of content or the type of emails that I was writing for them. Excuse me. And then I also started at the beginning of a retainer, at the beginning of a project, I would start by sending over, and some copywriters probably do this already, but I hadn't earlier been doing this. I would start by like sending over a snippet of the project, or like a voice test, I would call it. Be like, hey, does this sound like you? Does this sound like what you want your brand to sound like? Is this something you would say? Can you give me the green light on these subject lines or on, these angles? And if you give me the green light, we will be moving forward. Like, we'll now be complete. So I almost front-loaded revisions or front-loaded feedback by sending them the angle for each email, or the subject line for each email, or the topic for each email, along with a little video explainer. And that made them feel much more comfortable in the process. They got any like worry stuff kind of worked out, and they were really happy when the final project came. I also have started delivering things over video. So instead of just sending people a file, especially for newer clients, and I've worked with clients for a long time, I don't necessarily do this anymore, but for newer clients, I would walk through, like, present the copy and say, hey, this section is included for this. Okay, this section is one I haven't seen you include in emails or sales pages before, but this is why it's important. Okay, this is why we're pushing this angle. Okay, this is why we're bringing up this emotion or this story. And so again, if they feel any discomfort around, oh, that sounds too pushy, or, oh, I don't want to make people feel bad, or, oh, this doesn't seem relevant, I've included a narrative around it that makes sense to them. And now at the beginning of the project, I actually am pretty clear on opening conversations. And I say not so much that I don't accept revisions, but I'm like, my process eliminates the need for revisions. I think it's a waste of both of our energy to go through all of this discovery, to go through this mapping process, for me to send you topics for green lights, for me to write it all out, and then to go back and rework it again. That's not in service of either of our time. So it might feel weird if you've worked with a copywriter before. You might feel like you should be giving me a revision request. Like you're not doing your due diligence if you're not adding comments or whatever. But that's not really the way that I work. And a lot of my clients tell me it feels a little bit weird at first, but after the first couple rounds, it feels really freeing because you can take that off your to-do list. You don't need to filter this copy. You don't need to go through it with a tooth and comb. So those are kind of the different elements that have slowly evolved in my process.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. And then let's say, I mean, you sort of stumbled onto this almost by accident. But let's say a copywriter who does do revisions, maybe they've got like a three revisions clause, or they just play it by ear. How would they go about defining those boundaries where they don't do the revisions? Like looking back, like what would you think is the process for doing that?
I think the lowest hanging fruit is saying kind of that script that I just shared that I often use with clients on like an opening kickoff call, kind of setting those expectations and proving to them basically that you have created a process, the way that you create copy, by getting their feedback or by doing a certain research process or by getting a green light from them at some stage of the process, basically eliminates the need for revision. So like showing them that their opinion still matters, but you've created a process that no longer makes last minute revisions necessary. So that's, I think, like your lowest hanging fruit is talk about that on an opening conversation. I think your next lowest hanging fruit is making sure, I find that clients, it like makes them feel safe to feel like they can give feedback in some way. It helps them feel like they still have some control. And I think that's important for them in the process. It's kind of just like basic human nature. So I make sure that early on in the project, when it's not going to derail me, I ask them for feedback on some piece of the process where I'm saying, hey, can you give me feedback on this outline? Or, hey, can you run through this in green light, the headlines or the angle? Or, hey, this is what how I'm planning to structure this campaign. Are you excited about this? Is there anything you'd like to add? Adding that sometime at the beginning of the process where it's really simple and there aren't as many variables and things at play, when there's not like 15,000 words of copy for them to go through or something. Adding that at the beginning lets them get that need for feedback and communication and collaboration out of their system, and helps me make sure that we're headed in the right direction. So I think that's like the second lowest hanging piece of fruit. And then the third one is, how can you, and this one takes a little bit more pivoting, how can you create an offer or create a package where it's not just, hey, pay me for this deliverable, like pay me for a sales page or pay me for website copy, but instead they're paying for a methodology or a process. Because like I said, that's kind of how I stumbled into the beginning, was realizing, oh, and they were buying this very specific set of emails that I had designed for a very specific purpose and a very specific type of launch. They understood that they were getting like this product or this kit versus this very organic type of thing. So even if you're still doing sales pages, if you're able to create some sort of process or methodology or system around it, like this is my sales page framework, I think that can change things.
Yeah, absolutely. So Shauna is asking the question whether you're selling them on your process. I think there's a bunch of things happening here, Shauna. Number one is that she's created, as opposed to like a copywriting deliverable, she's created a productized package or an offer that solves a specific problem. So what they're actually buying is the solution to that problem and not just the deliverable. That's the first part. The second part is that she's setting those expectations on the call during discovery, when she's saying that I've sold this package. We've done this package for X, Y, and Z clients, and these are the results they've found. So now they're a little bit more at ease that, okay, I just need to buy this and my problem is solved. That's number two. So number three is she's doing something that actually Jay Abraham did when he wrote copies. Like, he would write the headline and send it to the client to get his feedback. Then he would write the hook and send it to the client. And then he would write the first page and send it to the client to get his feedback. And only then, after that, would he go ahead and finish the package. So in that, what's happening here is that usually what happens is the copywriter will write the copy, and like they'll get the yes on the phone or whatever, and sign the contract or whatever, and they'll like disappear for a few weeks, and then they'll come back and then like shit a bunch, like 50,000 words of copy on them, and that's just gonna like create a lot of anxiety. And immediately what's going to happen is the client is going to be like, oh my God, I have to go through all of this, and they'll start going through everything line by line, because that's, for some reason, that's what they think they should do. And generally humans love correcting other humans. So yeah, so they're going to look for like stupid shit, right? Even though they're not copywriters. So that's number three. Okay. And then number four is that she said that she presents the copy rather than just delivers the deliverable. She presents the copy and does like a walkthrough or a breakdown of why she wrote the copy this way. So now they understand the context behind why something is the way it is, as opposed to I don't like this sentence or I don't like this word. Yeah. So it's like a whole system of doing it where she's managing the client's expectations throughout the process to make sure that they don't ask for revisions at the end.
100%. And I love that you brought up the Jay Abraham example, because I think it's a really good reminder of basically like our human tendency to get into like either a negative train of thought or a positive train of thought. So by presenting the headline and the hook in the first page, he's basically guaranteeing that when he sends the whole project, their first page, they're going to love it because they've already approved it. So then as they continue scrolling or continue reading, they're already in like a positive train of thought, versus if someone, like you said, opens up a document and has 50 pages to go through, and if something on the first page like ruffles their feathers or they're just in a bad mood, all of a sudden they're on this just like negative railroad for the entire read through of the copy, and that's just really hard to bounce back from. It's really hard to correct at that point.
Absolutely. And then once they find something they didn't like on the first page, now they're going to be extra pedantic about they'll go through every single page afterwards. Yeah, and I think that's clear. All right, so Dennis, what's up, Dennis? Thanks, man. Thanks for joining us. He's got two questions. All right, so for the first one is, what does Sarah's team look like? I know she has a VA, but does she have anyone else on her team, like a copywriter?
Oh, great question. I have a personal assistant in my life. So she's not a VA, and she honestly doesn't do a lot of business stuff for me, but she's more of like a household manager. So she does like laundry, grocery shopping, meal prepping, gift buying, cleaning, all of the things, and just gives me a ton of time back, in my personal life. And then I work with a couple copywriters on a contract basis, not super often though. And when I work with them, I will typically outsource pieces of a project. So if I'm working on a bigger type of project, like a full funnel or a full campaign, I'll be working with the client on the strategic stuff, and I might do like headlines, angles, like hook for sales page, bullets, CTAs, and then I'll send that to them with a video of like sections I want them to fill in. Like, hey, this story needs to go here. Can you do some research around this topic? Okay, we need to interview a couple clients to get case studies for these emails. Can you do that? And so they work for me. I'm basically plugging some of the more time intensive, but in my opinion, slightly less high leverage pieces into the funnel. But I don't have a big team. I do most of it myself. Management is not a skill set or a desire of mine. At least at this stage of my life. I may build that skill and that desire may come, but currently outsourcing is not the biggest way that I manage my time.
Right, right. And you're more content to just like do your own thing as opposed to build this massive corporation, right?
Yeah, I'm not an empire builder. I want the life that I want, the clients that I love, the money that I want, and to feel like I can sleep well at night knowing that my people are taken care of. I don't want an agency.
Yeah, for sure. So question number 2 is, what's a good one-day offer or a fast turnaround offer for email copywriters?
That's a good one. You can definitely do an audit. Audits work really well. And one of the reasons I like audits is you get clients that have existing stuff going. Like they're already running traffic. They already have a list. They already have something up and running. So audits are like a really natural filter. If someone's like, oh, I have this new offer and no audience, they're not even going to be interested in an audit. I also like thinking about the high ticket retainer clients that I want to land and what is like a narrow area of their business that I could go into. So for example, a lot of coaches also run events. So I could do like I could design an email kit that I could implement in a day for filling up your next event or your next retreat or your next workshop, and have like very specific like event oriented emails, and do that. And that I know that those coaches who sign up for that, if they're already running an event, they already have an audience. They already have probably a warm list of leads, if not on email, on like a Facebook group or something. And so they're going to be a really good fit for my like ongoing email list management offer. But that same strategy of like picking a narrow piece of someone's business to create like an email funnel for would apply to any industry. Like if you're in e-commerce, write a Black Friday promotion. If you're if you work with course creators, run a bundle promotion or something. Just think of like a small win that you can create. Like what can you do that actually would create like cash out of their email list? Because that's what most people actually want. But have it be really specific versus just going to their signature offer or their main sales thing that they're already doing, because that's a little bit larger scale and maybe a little bit too big to accomplish in a day. So yeah, pick something small that you can get them a win in, and then they'll trust you because cash will come in the door for this like smaller offer that they have. They'll trust you to manage their list in a bigger capacity.
I remember a post of yours last year where you mentioned like a piece of content where you were talking about the reasons why prospects will get on the phone with a high ticket coach or consultant and don't buy, and you went through like your solutions for those problems, and I think it was a very well received post. There was one solution in there where you were like, we write a 2 or 3 email sequence from the time they book the call to between the time they book the call and the time they get on the call. So that could be like a one-day offer thing, because it's like 2 or 3 emails. You can write it in one day, and that's gonna make their sales process easier.
Totally. Yeah. It was just like, it's like a priming sequence. So they put in their application, schedule the call. It's a couple priming emails before the call. Yeah. That would be super simple to deliver in a day. Yeah. Just think of like, what type of business model do you want to write emails for, and what's something you could plug in to what they're already doing to get better results.
Yeah, for sure. Nice. All right. So moving on to the next topic. So we were going to talk about how people spend way too much time marketing and not enough time creating good offers. And I think that's your specialty. So I'll let you go off.
Yeah, basically my whole thing about that is I know so many consultants and service providers and business owners who are under the 6-figure mark or under the $500,000 a year mark. And they're spending 10 or 20 hours a week on like content creation that isn't driving any sales. Like the amount of time and effort that they're putting into getting anyone on the phone is insane. Like it might add up to like, yeah, they have to write 17 posts to get someone on the phone, or they're sending out tons of emails or producing tons of videos or putting together webinar funnels just to get a couple applications. And if you have something that someone actually wants, if you have an offer that actually creates like desire and demand, getting people on the phone or getting people at least to display interest and take action to like reach out to you in a message should be relatively easy. Scaling it might take a little bit of work, like scaling your audience or scaling interest might take some work, but actually generating a handful of appointments per week or per month should not take a dramatic amount of time. And if it does, it means that you don't know how to make an invitation that makes people want to show up to your party. Like you have something no one wants and you're having to drag people in the door for it.
And I think you did a training about this in your Facebook group on your industry, where you went through your sort of framework for creating like an end of year mini offer. But I think those principles could apply for creating offers in general, right?
Totally. Yeah. If you jump in my Facebook group, you can see it. The replay's in there.
Yeah. And then just for the people to sort of whet their appetite, what are, like in brief, what are the like the core elements of an offer that, you know, people are gonna slide in your DMs for?
They have to feel like it's made specifically for them. And that involves calling them out. So like actually labeling or being clear about who you're speaking to, your niche. But beyond that, it requires you to have a knowledge of your niche and their problems to a level that you can provide like perspective or opinions or insight into their problems. Because I see tons of people who are getting like the first part of that right, and they're saying like, are you frustrated with not making money from your email list? But then after they say that, they're not able to provide any insight on that issue that would make a reader believe that they can actually solve that problem. So it's kind of like a two-edged sword there.
Yeah.
You have to invite them into something that they want to solve right now. I have plenty of problems in my life and business. We all do, but some just aren't a priority right now because they're not big enough, they're not painful enough, or they're sequenced later. I'm just like not ready to solve that problem yet because of other things going on. And so you need to know what your market is looking to solve right now. I also think that it needs to feel, especially if it's the first time working with you, the initial engagement, it needs to feel digestible and attainable. I think in the high ticket space, people are selling such big promises. You know, I'll 4x your income. I'll totally restructure your business model. I'll help you scale back from 80 hours a week to 4 hours a week. And these promises feel so big that you have to build up so much trust, like this massive amount of trust before they'll commit to actually investing in your offer and working with you, because the gap between where they're at and where they're going is so huge. There's a massive amount of friction, obstacles, potential danger, etc., risk. And so if you can present an offer that feels more attainable, like I love the one that you wrote about, or I think you mentioned like writing a $10,000 Facebook post. And I've referenced it a couple of times now because I think that for someone who makes maybe gets one phone call off a Facebook post and might be making like $1,000 or $2,000 every once in a while from a Facebook post, getting to 10,000 feels like, yeah, that'd be awesome. That's a great goal. That's something I want to get to, but it also feels attainable. You're not saying I'll help you make $1 million off your Facebook this year. That feels a lot bigger. So sometimes starting your offer with a little bit more of a digestible promise makes it easier for people to trust you enough to invest and take action.
Yeah. So it's like you're saying that people, like when they make their promises are like too abstract.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to sort of meet the people where they are so they can actually understand the promise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. And so there's a full 30-minute training in Sarah's Facebook group, Own Your Industry. You can join the Facebook group and then watch the training. And she goes into it in detail. It's excellent. And I'm only recommending it because she gives me a shout out there.
Thank you.
All right. So Dennis got one more question for you. How many hours does Sarah work per week on average? 4 hours.
4 hours total. Not quite. I work probably 4 hours a day, Monday through Thursday. And then Friday, I would say I work maybe every other Friday. Not like scheduled. It just kind of depends. Fridays are kind of a day that I take like overflow calls if I want to, or like maybe schedule an interview like this one, or do work that I didn't get to earlier in the week. And then I would say once a week, either on the weekends or on an evening, I'll have like this burst of creative energy and be like, I want to go to a coffee shop and like get some writing done or plan out a new offer or a project. And so I might do like an additional 3 hours or something in that scope. And then I would say I take 1 week off per month on average for travel or other stuff. And sometimes that creates a little extra work for the week before, sometimes not. It depends.
Was it always like this, or did you have to work to?
No. At the beginning, I was working all the time so that I could get clients. I was doing some free work, or I was doing really low paid work, or I was getting work off Upwork, or just hustling in like Facebook groups, or just learning all the time, like doing spec work. Or like taking programs. So I was like going through courses or masterminds to learn. And then I started getting tons of clients and was horrible at managing projects. I was disorganized. I was letting deadlines pile up. I was having to start every project from scratch because I was working in so many different industries with so many different types of deliverables. So I was having to do a ton of extra research and planning for every single project. So I was undercharging because of how much work every project was taking me. And then I personally like can only write so much every day. I can't have 12 hours of productive writing a day. And so I was in this awful catch-22 where every day I was waking up to like 8 or 10 or 12 hours of writing work. But it was taking me even longer than that because I was like creatively burned out. So projects that should have taken, writing an email that should have taken 20 minutes or 40 minutes or maybe an hour was taking me 2 hours because I was just so tired or overwhelmed or burned out. So yeah, it wasn't always this way.
And most copywriters will say that they only have about 4 hours of quality writing that they can get done in a day.
Mm-hmm.
So after that is like you're just pretty much wasting your time.
Yeah, you are. I'll be like, how long have I been staring at this document and I've written 3 lines? Yeah. They're all crap.
Yeah. And then, so when you say 4 hours, does that is that only writing, or are you are you not counting like the admin stuff that you have to do for your business and things like that?
I am counting the admin. However, my business is very simple.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that takes up a large amount of my time. So it's mostly writing. Yeah.
There's one person is like,
yeah.
And if you have all your...
I deliver my projects in Google Docs. I don't even have like a calendar booking software, or like I keep things very simple. Yeah.
And then obviously you've gotten to the point where your offers are systematized, your niche is systematized, and then you've already worked in that. I'm sure you've already worked in that particular industry for a long time. So there's no project management to speak of, because like you've done it before.
And a lot of my clients, I work with them for a long time. So I do like intro offers that are either a workshop or a 1-day offer. And I do every once in a while take on a one-off project. usually for past clients. But most of my clients are retainer clients where I'm like managing their content or their email list. And when you've worked with someone for 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, like I'm so ingrained in their offer and their voice and their audience's objections that, I mean, if I want to, it's like I can write an email for them on my phone probably in like 15 or 20 minutes. And so that's like one of the reasons that I love long-term client relationships is the work just gets easier and easier and easier. It's almost as easy as like writing in my own voice because I'm so used to writing for them.
And it's easier for the client as well, isn't it? Because like there's so much energy that goes into finding a copywriter, onboarding them, getting them to sound like you or whatever that means. It just I think it just makes sense the way you've got it figured out.
Yeah.
All right. So next on the list, predictions for the high ticket coaching space in 2020. Now, when I advertised this office hours, I said there might be a high ticket Me Too.
Scandal breaking right here.
Yeah. So I don't know. What have you got for me? What's the gossip?
I have not yet experienced that, so sorry to disappoint everyone. My biggest prediction that I'm most solid on is that I think it's just getting harder and harder and harder and harder to sell people into a $10,000 engagement first.
Yeah.
Like that's been preached for so long, and the whole like webinar to sales call to 10K mastermind or 20K mastermind or 5K program. I think buyers are more sophisticated. I think they're aware that there are more coaches out there. They don't think you're the only brilliant coach to ever have existed. And they're more skeptical because most people have bought a course or a program that hasn't worked or hasn't delivered. And so I think giving people a bite-sized experience of you and your work in a paid format is going to be more and more important. And it makes the sales process easier. I think it's a win-win. That's my like first prediction. I'm curious if you agree with that or not, because I know you're in this space.
I do agree. I've seen just the prices of offers come down a little bit, and it's a more compact offer. I've seen people like Joel Irway start selling people on the idea of the mini webinar, which is like a 20-minute thing, or like the mini VSL, which is like a 5-minute thing, right?
By the way, the mini webinar is a great example of like a unique mechanism for a VSL.
Absolutely. So I do agree with you. What do you think about? You did mention that there are quite a lot of coaches and consultants in this high ticket space now, and the customers are becoming more and more sophisticated. What are your predictions or recommendations in the sense of like how would high ticket coaches or consultants compete next year, given that there are so many of them out there? Like, what do they need to do to be competitive?
I think specialization or niching is part of it. There's a lot of like all-in-one marketing programs or like all-in-one person development programs that are basically like, we'll take you no matter where your business is at, no matter what assets you have, and we'll turn you into a 6-figure, 7-figure program, giving you all the marketing assets you need and the only path you need. And I think that one-size-fits-all type of cookie-cutter big marketing program is going to be harder and harder to sell. And so I think specializing into either a certain type of growth path or a certain niche or a certain vertical is going to be more and more important. I think learning how to build an actual community, or learning how to create a personal brand, like either one of those is going to be more and more important. Like just having a single webinar or a single like funnel is no longer going to cut it if you don't know how to leverage like email on the back end or a Facebook group on the back end. in order to keep nurturing people. I think people aren't converting as quickly into those offers through no longer like watching the webinar and 48 hours investing. Of course, some people still are. It's just not as easy. Yeah.
One thing I've noticed is that there are some people in the coaching or consulting high ticket space where they're selling a particular model of, let's say, getting clients. Yeah.
Sure.
They're selling a particular model, but then their way of acquiring clients is not they're doing a lot more things other than that specific model. So like, let's say you sell the webinar funnel model, right? And you tell them, okay, don't do blogging, don't do podcasting, don't create content, just do this one thing. And don't just focus on your one high ticket offer. Don't create front ends, don't create tripwires, don't create introductory offers and things like that. But then they're doing all of these things. So it's a little bit incongruent. But at the same time, I'm thinking like, okay, maybe it's only because they're at that stage in their business where it makes sense for them. So what do you think? Are they right, or are they being a little bit disingenuous?
I mean, sophistication may be a part of it. Like, hey, yeah, this, like, stay simple until you get to this level. Like, that does make sense. But I also think that right now we're seeing on a very small and condensed scale what happens in like the general education space. So if you go to college for software engineering, your classes are always at least 5 years behind what's actually happening in the marketplace. Because by the time it's packaged into a textbook or packaged into a training, the market has changed and evolved and grown. And I think the digital space is in like a season of evolving and maturing. And some of these consulting programs are behind. And they've updated their own marketing without updating the trainings or the process or the model to reflect what's actually going on in the marketplace.
I know, I absolutely agree with that. And you sort of said what was going on in my head as well. I was actually, I took a training by this, I hired this consultant to help me a little bit with Facebook ads. And I went through his training, and his Facebook ads training is literally like, he hasn't updated it in I think maybe 10 years.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like the olden days Facebook.
Yeah, none of the screen captures are even accurate.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the old, and he's doing screen shares, right? And it's the old Facebook, but like, I don't know, the design from like 4, 5, or 10 years ago, and he hasn't updated it yet. And I'm like, bro, how can you sell this? It's not even relevant now. Like, so I'm just, it's a little bit weird. There are some people who are diligent about keeping their content fresh and updated, especially in like something that's rapidly changing. But there's quite a few people who they'll just record their program once, and then that's the end of it.
Yeah.
All right, last topic for today: personal branding as a service provider. And I think you have a really interesting take on this. I slightly differ. I'm more of like the shotgun approach, and you're more like a sniper rifle. So let's talk about that.
I'm excited to hear more about your approach. So I think personal branding as a service provider is critical because you're entering into like an intimate relationship with a business owner. And especially if you're working in an industry that feels saturated to you, where your clients have the choice of hiring multiple different service providers to get to a similar goal. Like, yes, you have a different angle and a different approach, but they can hire someone else to get to a similar goal. They want to work with someone that they feel like they would enjoy working with. Someone whose values align with theirs, or their personality is someone that they want to like get an hour-long call with or have inside their business. So I think that's one of the reasons that it's so critical. It's also like the easiest way to leverage attention. Like, we can talk about writing good content all day long and crafting the perfect piece, but the reality is humans are all voyeurs. Like, we all want to watch other humans, how they live, how they act, the choices they make, what their life is like. And that's been proven many times over by social media, reality TV, news cycles. Like, it's not even up for debate. And so you actually can get away with being like a worse content creator or a worse marketer if you're just like interesting to pay attention to.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's like kind of the base level of what I believe about it.
Yeah, and something that's interesting to me is that you don't produce a lot of content, and you're not really anywhere other than your Facebook, your personal Facebook profile. Tell me a little bit about that. I know you have you do have a training inside inside your own Facebook group about it, but maybe you can just summarize it a little bit for us.
Yeah, so the main thing is that it's just not worth it for me in my current season of business to be elsewhere. It's not that I don't think that I could be getting results on Instagram or YouTube or LinkedIn. It's just that I get more than enough leads from Facebook. So in my current season, it just doesn't make sense to diversify beyond that. I'll get to a point where it makes sense, probably, maybe. And I think that there's totally value in, I think you used the word cross-pollination at one point in one of your posts in my group. There's totally value in it. It's just like not where I choose to spend my time. And I think the idea that you have to show up every 12 hours or every 10 hours or people will forget about you just means that you're not memorable. Like, showing up consistently is awesome. I could get more leads if I showed up more often. I just don't need to. But people still remember me if I haven't posted for a month or two or a week or two. And it's because I'm memorable and worth paying attention to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's more of a volume versus intensity approach. My approach is more like volume. It's like once a day, like on every platform that exists. And yours is more like it's like super intense, and then you get the huge engagement on your stuff, whereas mine is like more spread out over a period of time, but they all pretty much average out to the same amount of engagement. In fact, I would say that it's a sort of like the daily emails thing, right? Like my total engagement is probably more than yours, but yours is probably much more concentrated. And then because of that, and because you don't need so many leads for your business to be where you want it to be, it works just fine for you. And then it's obviously it's not just you have enough business, but you don't have to spend all this time creating content, which is perfect. You just have to.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it puts a little bit of pressure on you to come up with some like epic piece? Because my stuff is like whatever. It's like almost throwaway at this point. And I don't even, go ahead.
Sometimes, I mean, if there's something that I really want to sell and I'm really excited about and there's like time limit on it for whatever reason, I definitely sometimes have like this self-doubt of, oh, what if I put a lot of energy into writing this post and put it up and it just flops? Like, what am I going to do then? But that's usually just a feeling and it goes away. And if I don't get great engagement on a post, I mean, I can leave it up or I can delete it. Or I can write a follow-up post that links back to it. Like, I have other tools that I can use. Like, I can increase my volume in the next like day or two after that post to see if I can salvage it. I don't think it puts a ton of pressure on the actual writing of the post because I don't usually write it like on that day. Like, typically my writing process for myself is I've got ideas mulling in my subconscious, like things I'm thinking about, things I'm paying attention to. And then it will come out either in like the beginning of my workday. I take like 10 minutes to just get stuff out of my brain, just like free write journaling. Like, this is what I'm thinking about in my business, my life, with client work. So sometimes a post will start there. Like, there'll be a line or a topic that comes out that I'm like, oh, this could be the hook for this offer that I'm putting out next week or next month. Sometimes it will come out in voice notes. I keep my phone with me if I'm like taking a walk or in the car. And in either of those places, a lot of times I'll get an idea for a post, just like lightning, like, oh, that's the story, that's the angle, that's the insight, and I'll record it. Or it will come out in conversation with a client or a prospect. I'll like talk them through the insight and be like, oh, I need to package up that insight into a post because that's what sold that client. Like that's what sold them. I need to put that into a post. So it kind of becomes like this organic process. Then I'll jot it down in notes, and then whenever I'm ready to actually post it, I obviously like refine it. But the writing process doesn't feel like pressure. Sometimes actually posting it, I have to like stop myself from like refreshing Facebook over and over again, because that's obviously not worth my time to be like, oh my gosh, is this one going to be the one that flops? But whatever.
Yeah, like I've had posts where like I put zero thought and time behind it, and it was like just like a 5-minute thing. And I've had posts where I would like spend like an hour or two trying to craft like this masterpiece, and I have no idea which one is going to work. So at this point, like I don't even care anymore. It's like, and sometimes the post that I don't think is going like was like a flop or something, like that'll get me people in my DMs and who'll end up being clients. You know, it's like it's kind of weird how that works.
It is weird. The market decides ultimately, and sometimes I'm surprised by the decisions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. So we've been going for a little over an hour. I think that's enough time. I'm sure you have very interesting things to do this Friday. So if you don't have any other questions, Sarah, where can people find you online other than Facebook?
Well, join my Facebook group, Own Your Industry. That's the biggest place that I'm showing up right now. You're welcome to check out my website, but it's like 2 paragraphs long. It's just my name.com, sarahtemte.com. But Facebook is the main place I show up currently. We'll see if that changes. But
do you have an email address? I mean, not I mean, an email newsletter.
I do have an email newsletter. The button to join is broken right now because I'm switching email service providers and making some updates. And the reality is like I am lazy in my business sometimes. Like I'm not shy about that online. So it'll be back. You can join my email list at some point, but not currently.
I mean, it's clearly working for you, so it doesn't really matter. And then one more thing, you have this program that you launched this month. Are there still spots open, or is it full?
Oh yes. Currently, payment-wise, there are 2 spots open. Someone has committed, but they haven't paid yet. So, yeah, if you join Own Your Industry, the details are in there, where you can message me about it. But it's called Industry Leaders Academy, and I'm helping people refine their offers and their positioning so that they can be an A player in their industry within a couple months versus 10 years.
And this is for service providers mainly, right?
Yeah, service providers only. Maybe like a B2B consultant, maybe, but not a coach, not a course creator, not a passive income person.
All right, perfect. So if you want to find out more about Sarah and what she does, the best thing to do is join her Facebook group, Own Your Industry, and friend her on Facebook, because that's where she spends the most time online. All right, Sarah, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Sometime.
I know, it took so long. We've been following each other for what, like 2 years or something?
Yeah, and then I think you mentioned it in the DMs. It's like our whole messaging history is just us sending 2 steps to each other.
It is. This was like the first time almost that we had an actual conversation. We just like always comment on each other's 2 steps because I like what you do. And
yeah. And it's like you're always trying to steal what the other copywriters are doing, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So this is for Sarah Temte and Nabeel Azeez at dropkickcopy.com and sarahtemte.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and you can catch the replay afterwards. And I'm going to end the broadcast now.